Hello, my Bill 5000 Nation. How is everyone doing tonight? Hopefully everyone's having a great night. If not, hopefully it gets better from here. Alright, we are back with another Mr. Ballin. This one is titled Family Terrorized by Stalker. True Story of the Watcher. The Watcher. Alright. It was like that one I got here. I don't know what that was. Alright, let's get into it. Go ahead and turn them lifestyle mode, put on something comfy, cut up for someone special. Let's get spooky.
What's going on, guys? Mr. Ballin here, former Navy SEAL turned internet storyteller with a focus on the strange, dark, and mysterious. And speaking of mysterious, today I have a mystery for you. And it's one of the more recent mysteries. It happened in 2014 and spanned a couple of years following that. It is a story that plays out like a psychological thriller. And in fact, Netflix recently purchased the rights to make a movie or show about this case from the family that were the victims of this case. The too long didn't read version of the story is you have this all-American family that purchases their dream home. They're getting ready to move in, and they start receiving these awful, wrathful, threatening letters from some anonymous person or group. The letters get progressively worse and indicate that whoever is watching them very closely at all hours and is able to see things that are not easy to spot just from walking by. This is someone who is really intensely focused on the family. I think that the best way to watch this video and learn about this case, to really appreciate what this family went through, is to put yourself in the position of being the Broaddus family. That's the family that purchases the house. Imagine you're in their position. Would you have stayed or would you have left? And I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. So let's dive in. In June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus purchased their dream home. It is a $1.3 million 6-bedroom house in Westfield, New Jersey.
Did he say $1.3 million? $1.3 million. That's a lot of freaking money.
Which is a very affluent northern New Jersey town. So the house they purchased was on Boulevard, that's the street name, and Boulevard within Westfield is what at the time was like the street. If you lived on Boulevard, you had made it. I would say that times have changed because now Boulevard is remembered as the place where this case happened. So I would say it's probably not the best place to live anymore. But at the time, it was like Derek and Maria were living their dreams and they knew it. 3 days after the sale of the house, they hadn't moved in yet. Derek had gone to the house to do some painting of the walls and some simple house renovations. I think he was just so excited about this house. He just wanted to go over and just kind of be in the space. So his wife and his kids are back at their old house that they had sold but hadn't moved out of yet. And so he's at the new house and he's doing these simple renovations. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to check the mail. Because
So they had $1.3 million before they even sold the other house? I will never see that much money. Never, ever, never, ever, ever.
because even though they'd only owned the house for 3 days, he was like, you know what the heck, see what it feels like to go collect.
I know that feeling. It's like, I'm going to be that guy. Yep. Get your nice robe on, coffee, some nice slippers, or Crocs. Probably Crocs. Straw out there, check the mail. Oh, yeah.
The mail. This is going to be my new home. And so he goes out and he opens the mailbox, and inside is this little tiny card-shaped envelope addressed to the new owners.
Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting.
You gotta love Mr. Ballen's acting. It tickles me when he does that. Oh, God. Just like, okay.
For its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s. My father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard?
He's making it very creepy. Oh, God. That's some creepy shit.
Why are you here? I'll find out.
The letter goes on to identify what kind of car they were driving. It was a Honda minivan. It went on to say how many contractors were in and around the house over the past couple of days that were doing some renovations on the house. It even said that, I believe I've counted that you have 3 children. Someday I will learn their names and I will call to them and I will take them from you. It's like this. It's like a reconnaissance that the family had.
What? So, this mofo. Oh, I'd find out who it is. I'd shoot him in the face. I'm sorry. I would. I'd smile and whistle while I did it.
Already begun as soon as they moved in. And so Derek is reading through this letter and he's realizing that whoever is sending this, this is not a friendly neighbor at this point. This is someone who is out to harm them in some way. So he takes the letter, he runs back into the house, shuts all the windows, locks all the doors, leaves the house and goes right back to his wife and his kids that are at their old home. And they promptly call the police. Police show up, they read the letter, and they're like, what is this? Do you have enemies?
Dude, I don't know. You know as much as I know. I just want to check my mail for the first time. I go out there, I got that fancy robe, that cup of coffee, them shiny Crocs, and I'm just out there strutting my shit. Yeah. Open up and there's this. Now you know as much as I know. Oh, God. Shit.
Who wrote you this? Because even the language inside the letter was like, it was not quite Old English, but close. It was like this bizarre writing, and it was just very stalkerish and awful, and the police just don't really know what to make of it. And Derek and Maria are obviously very upset. They haven't even moved into the house yet. But this is a big cause for concern. So the letter did not have a return address. But at the...
Would you put a return address on that? I mean... Nope. No. I wouldn't. Bro, I'd be cutting out parts of magazines with other people's fingerprints on it. Different glue stick for each letter.
End of the letter, it just said,
"Mine. I could be someone that's walking by your house every day. I could be someone driving by your house every day. Be one of your neighbors. I could be anybody that you see at any given day. You'll never know.
And it just says, signed, the Watcher. After the police leave that night and promise...
That's a letter. Yo, shit. I don't know how I'd feel about any of that. I would be scared shitless at this point. This thing, no. I'm never leaving the house again.
To launch their own investigation. Derek and Maria, I mean, they're totally on edge. And so they write an email, even though it's super late, to the Woods family. They're the family that sold the house to Derek and Maria. And they say, hey, we just got this strange threatening letter. Have you received anything like this? Because the Watcher claims to have been watching you for the entire time you were there. And the Woods family writes back and they say, 3 days, I think it was 3 days before we actually left the house, we did receive a letter. It wasn't threatening. It was just thanking us for our time in the house and treating it with respect, and that it would be taken care of going forward, and that this person would look after the house for us, and it was signed the Watcher. But to be honest, we didn't think much of it. We crumpled it up and threw it away. So the Broadduses decide that...
No, to all of that. Okay, no, that's no, that's beyond creepy. That's terrifying. I'm sure that's probably not something you have to disclose when you're selling a house, but it'd be awfully nice to have, a little bit of a heads up going into this place. Just a little.
They are not going to rush to actually move into the new house. They thought about doing it, but they decided with this letter.
There's 1 point whatever million dollars down the drain. The damn Watcher. That's creepy. I'm sorry. I've never heard this. I don't know if I'm the only person in the world that's never heard this story, but that happened there.
Maybe it's best to hold off a little bit. And so Derek and Maria would do day trips with the kids. They'd go do a day trip, do some renovations, make sure that the contractors that were there were doing a good job getting the house in order, and then they would
make sure they're all still alive. Don't sugarcoat it. It's literally what it is. You're just making sure the people you hired to do things to this house that the Watcher might get pissed off about is still alive. Yeah.
back to the house that they were still living in. About 2 weeks after that letter was found, Maria is there with the kids, and she gets to the new house, and she sees there's a letter from the Watcher, the same envelope, same writing on the outside. And so she immediately calls the police, even before she reads it. She opens it up, and it says,
"Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard. The workers have been busy, and I have been watching you unload carfuls of your personal belongings. The dumpster is a nice touch. Have they found what's in the walls yet? In time, they will."
The Watcher goes on to identify each of their kids by nickname and by birth order, which implies that whoever this was close enough to Maria or to Derek when they were speaking directly to their kids using their nicknames that they overheard. Because it's one thing to know the children's full names, because it's possible that you could have looked it up online or something, but to know their nicknames, that implies a level of proximity that even though they knew the Watcher was probably in the neighborhood, almost definitely, this meant they were practically on top of one another. And it gets creepier. The watcher also in the...
Oh, God. It gets creepier? I can't handle that. It can get creepier. No. No. No creepy. No. I'm done. I already never want to leave my house. No.
Letter asks, one of the children and says, "Is she going to be an artist? I saw her using her easel yesterday." Well, the easel that this girl had been using is in a back room of the house that is mostly obscured by trees and shrubbery. There's really only one vantage point where you could see this child, and it would mean you're right on the property, like pretty much in plain view of anybody there. And with Maria and Derek and basically everyone on high alert looking for this person, it seems odd that they could be able to see this girl working at her easel in this kind of hidden back room and not be spotted. And then, of course, to kind of seal the deal, making this letter just totally terrifying, they go on to say,
"Do your kids go in the basement? I'd be afraid if I were them. It's far away from the rest of the house, and if you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. Then I can plan better."
So at this point, Derek and Maria...
He's right. That's horrific. Plan what? Okay, everything stops. I'm done. Oh, no. I could not handle that. No. I could not move into this house. I would be sitting in the middle of the house in a box fort with like several different weapons, just waiting. For what? I have no clue. No.
Are in full crisis mode. Because it's one thing to be watched, which is bad. It's another when the person watching you is now overtly threatening your family, your kids. It's a bad situation. So Derek and Maria, at this point, they don't know if they're even ever going to move into this new house. It felt unsafe. So for a few weeks, they're kind of teetering on whether it's worth moving in or not, so that they aren't there. They're not going to.
Don't you have like so long after you've bought a house for you to change your mind, or some both? Or is it just done? I don't know.
The new house at all. And a third letter arrives basically saying, "Where are you? The house misses you," obviously from the watcher. At one point between the first letter and third letter, Derek was speaking with John Schmidt, who lived 2 doors down from their new property on Boulevard. And John was saying that Derek ought to look into the Langfords. It was a family that lived right next to their new house. Kind of a little bit of a strange family. It was a 90-something-year-old mother and her adult children who lived with her, who were all in their 60s. And one of the children, Michael, he was just known in the area about being a little bit odd. Like he
is the weirdo in the neighborhood. We all know. Everyone's got that weirdo that lives in the neighborhood. I have one. He lives right next door. Yeah, I'm just going ahead and saying, if anything ever happens to me, look there first. And then, like, catty corner, there's like the sweetest old lady you could ever imagine in your life. Like, picture the sweetest grandma in the world sweeping her driveway constantly because of leaves. That's what she does.
Just kind of creep out other people. It wasn't uncommon to have him like walk across people's property, like little things like that, like looking in windows, just giving the vibe that he was a little bit strange and people didn't really like being around him. So Derek brings it up to the police that, hey, you should look into Michael Langford. He lives right near us. The neighbors are saying he's a little bit off. The police are like, actually, he was the first person we talked to. We brought him in. We questioned him. He denied it. We have no evidence tying him to it. And we just don't think it's him. And then later on in the investigation, they would actually do a DNA sample from one of the letters, and they would find out that it was a woman's DNA. And so that effectively ruled out Michael Langford, but the Langfords had a daughter. And so they decided maybe it could be her. And so they actually got a water bottle from her that they found, and they tested that, and it wasn't a match. So the Langfords were ruled out. Derek is growing increasingly more paranoid and angry. He went from being, scared of what was potentially going to happen to feeling like, how dare you threaten my family, my kids. And
My $1 million house.
Like, if you don't find who's doing this, I'm going to figure out who it is. And then you're not going to be dealing with, a stalking case. You're going to be dealing with a different kind of case. You catch me?
Going to get, motherfucker, going to catch a charge. Bro, I would have done with Rambo like a long time ago. Nah, that's one thing that threatened me. I don't really give two shits. I don't. I'm sorry. I am a pretty good sized boy. I don't have to give two shits. But the child's, I'd walk up to the watcher and bite his face.
Drift. And so the police were like, don't do anything crazy. We're working as hard as we can. It's just there's not much to go on here. Derek wasn't okay with that. He set up this elaborate camera system in and around his house, the new house. He started staying at the new house, turning off all the lights and crouching behind windows and staring at the mailbox in hopes of being able to confront anybody who went near it. He ended up hiring 2 former FBI agents to launch his own private investigation. He hired a handwriting expert to analyze the letters themselves to see if they could pick up details about who this was and potentially profile them. And this person, all they could conclude was it was someone who was really, really mad. But all those things really didn't lead.
Oh, God. Oh, shit. So, what's your opinion on dude? You got a profile yet? He's angry. He's a really mad person. Thank you so much. I did not know that myself. Mofo sounded happy to me. Shit.
To any results. It was just Derek had become obsessed, and he was willing to basically do anything to find out who the heck is writing these letters. So at this point, the Broaddus's had already sold their old house. They were still living in it because they hadn't moved into the new house, the house being watched. But at some point, the new owners of the house they sold were ready to move in. And so the Broaddus's had to move in with Maria's family, but were still paying the mortgage on 657 Boulevard. At this point, the community started kind of spreading rumors about the Broaddus family. People believed that the reason they weren't moving into this beautiful new home was, they were getting a divorce, they had some legal problems. The letters and what was going on with.
Oh, God. It's true, though. Rumors in the neighborhood are freaking horrible. Oh my God, like, it'll start one thing by the time it's done. Oh, did you hear such and such is pregnant? Yeah, it's triplets. By go. I don't know how that happens. It just does. That's it. I'm telling you. Be something as small as God only knows.
That was not widely known.
They're all crazy.
There was speculation about it, but no one really knew for sure. So Derek and Maria kind of gradually became pariahs, and they ultimately decided that they're just going to sell this house, this new house they purchased, because they need the money. They've tied up a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
And they feel like, we'll sell the house and we'll move on. But by the time they listed it, enough rumors were circulating about the weirdness around that house and why no one was moving into it, and the weirdness with Derek and Maria. Nobody wanted to buy, and so they initially listed this property.
Oh God. It's not funny. These poor people are getting screwed every which way.
Above what they paid because they had put $100,000 into the house in renovations. They just kept doing renovations, and that was their way of justifying not moving in. They were like, "We'll keep fixing it up. It'll be better once we move in." But so they put $100K in.
The only person enjoying that's the watcher. He's about like, "Oh shit! I never thought of putting something like that there. I'd be damned." Gotta write me a letter. Just to let you know, that little addition you did, that was something else. The house is quite thrilled. Something really messed up about whatever. Love always, the watcher. Sorry.
And no one bid. They lower the price, no one bid. They continued to lower the price to where it was like a full-blown deficit. Still, no one made an offer, so it sat vacant. At this point, Maria and Derek turned their frustration towards the previous owners, because as I mentioned earlier, they had received a letter from the watcher. Granted, it was, at the very end of their stay in this house, but it was before they gave over the keys to the Broaddus family, and Derek and Maria felt like the fact that they got an anonymous letter that was literally signed the watcher, that name alone was kind of ominous enough that they felt like the Woods family should have disclosed that to the Broaddus family.
I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, do you have to? Unfortunately, no, you do not. But they're not wrong. I mean, at least out of like some common courtesy, be like, "Hey, by the way, we was packing the shit up. I went out checked the mail one last time. There was this letter in there. It has some weirdo called the Watcher. I don't know. It was like, gracias for your stay." And it's weird. I just thought you should know. Here's this just in case something happens. You don't have to, though. I'm just saying, it would be nice. It would be appreciated.
Before they moved in. And so they filed a legal complaint against the Woods family, basically saying that you held information that potentially would have kept us from moving in and not having this problem. Well, Derek and Maria were assured by their legal team that at most, small legal newswire might pick up this lawsuit, and that would be it. But the story, it got picked up by a number of outlets. The fact that they were filing a complaint against the previous owners over basically a stalker. And all of a sudden, they were all over the news. The Broaddus family had over 300 media requests. There were TV stations and news stations camped out on the front lawn. Everybody wanted to know what's going on with this bizarre watcher.
I want to know. Dude, my brain is melting. I have to know. You must tell me. What else?
It became this huge thing. And so for Derek and Maria and their family, they had to vacate Westfield because it was basically not only unsafe because they were being watched by this phantom menace, but now they couldn't escape the media pressure and all the speculation from their nosy neighbors. It was just a total train wreck. Finally, the Broaddus family got some good news, literally years after this first letter is sent and they tied up all their money in this new house. A family agrees to rent the house. Now, this is going to be at a loss for the Broaddus family. The rent money will not even cover the mortgage, but to them who've just been sitting on this worthless property, who've just been eating away at their finances, this was a huge win.
Something.
The Broaddus family, they put into their contract with this new family that, hey, you know what's going on here with the watcher. If you get another letter, you're able to renege on this contract. And so the new family moves in, and 2 weeks into being there, what do you think happens? Another letter shows up.
You wonder who the watcher is. Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me. One of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. My soldiers of the boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and they saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher.
The renter was also mentioned in this letter and was
I'm sorry, it's getting emotional. All hail the Watcher. Oh, God. No. It's time to go to bed. Good night. Yeah. I'm done.
definitely spooked. But they decide that they're still willing to stick around because they knew going in this could happen. They just asked that the Broaddus family install even more cameras. And so they did that. They installed more cameras and they decided to stay. Derek and Maria are obviously disheartened, but at the same time, now they have more evidence against the Watcher. And so they take this new letter, they bring it to the police, and unfortunately, much like the other few letters they'd received, there was nothing much to go on, except that you have this person claiming to watch them, but no hard evidence to tie it to anybody. So once again, they got nowhere. After renting this house out for a while to this family at a deficit, the Broaddus family in 2019 finally decide to just sell the house at a $400,000 deficit. It was just a huge nightmare, and at this point they were willing to pay $400,000 to get rid of it. Before they sold it, they received one more letter, and this is what it said.
You are despised by the house, and the Watcher won.
Despite the investigation by police and the unofficial investigation by Derek's private investigators, we are not anywhere closer to figuring out who the Watcher is, or what's hidden in the walls. It's all still a huge mystery. Many people have speculated that the Broaddus family, that Derek specifically...
I forgot about that part. What the f...
was probably the person who wrote the letters, because in fact, he would later admit that he wrote a number of anonymous letters to people in the community that had been bad-mouthing he and his family. But he said it was purely out of frustration. I wanted to scare them and make them, feel what it was like to have the Watcher watching them. But he said, like this whole situation has really devastated them financially and emotionally, and kind of ruined their ability to stay in the town that they loved so much. So it just the angle that he stood to benefit from this. It's not a very good theory, in my opinion. In addition, recently Netflix bought the rights to their story. But if Derek and his family had said, what we're going to do is we're going to set up this elaborate mystery around ourselves for years in order to secure movie rights, you'd be putting your kids through something so traumatic. And so the idea of having your kids have to live with the fear of being attacked.
Unfortunately, some people just do not give two shits, sir. It's true. Some people don't. Very well possible that's what happened. I mean,
getting bullied at school because everybody talks in these communities. That seems far-fetched too. It remains to be seen who the Watcher is, but to this day, it remains a mystery. So if you haven't already, please.
I like that. My brain feels gooey. I don't like it either. Like, I like it, but I don't like it. I don't like it though. That's fucked up. I'm sorry, it is. I feel very paranoid. Alright, so if you all enjoyed today's video, think about leaving a thumbs up. If they're like Pokemon, collecting them all. Collecting them all. Yeah. And if you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, or deranged, think about subscribing. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.